It's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff that everyone always tells you, on YouTube. So what am I here to do today? Movie review. What? Yeah, baby. I don't do a lot of these, just because I don't know. I do more like Blu-ray reviews, as you know, if you watch the channel, and sometimes I do lists and stuff like that. But so I just watched this movie that I had never heard of before as of a couple weeks ago. It was recommended to me by a friend. It is called Mortuary Blues. It came out in 1990. And it stars Corey Yuen, who he's acted in a lot of movies, but he's also a pretty well-known director. He directed Yes, Madam. He directed Above the Law, which is also called Righting Wrongs. He directed some Jet Li movies. He was part of the Beijing Opera Group with Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung and Yuen Biao. So he was like a second unit director or like an AD, I think, on some Sammo Hung movies. He's a co-director on Dragons Forever. So he's like very well established within the industry. He's very well known. And then there's a bunch of other actors who are in this who you'll recognize if you've seen. Like I think Sandra Ng is in it and Amy Yip is in it, like kind of briefly. And so like if you're familiar with movies from that era, you'll definitely recognize a lot of people in it. And it was directed by Jeffrey Lau, who directed a movie called The Haunted Cop Shop, which has kind of been making the rounds recently on like Instagram and blogs and stuff because it was recently released on Blu-ray. And then he directed, I think, Treasure Hunt with Chow Yun-fat, and he directed Out of the Dark with Stephen Chow, which is kind of like a cult classic film. And and one of the reasons I don't do a lot of movie reviews is because I feel like a lot of the movies that I watch are movies that people are very familiar with, or movies you don't really need me to review. This is a movie, like I said, I'd never heard of this movie before, and I think it's kind of a more obscure film, and it is completely insane, and I was laughing like nonstop throughout this whole movie, and I was laughing partly because it's actually funny on purpose funny, and partly because it's like so insane that it's like, what is happening? If you saw my review of Sifu vs. Vampire, which has Yuen Biao in it, it's kind of similar to that. So what is this movie, right? It's kind of like a horror ghost movie. It's kind of a sex comedy. And it's also kind of like the Goonies or like Indiana Jones. There's no kids in it like the Goonies, but it has that kind of Goonies thing of like there's these people in a small town and there's this world they don't know about, like this treasure and like this history of like this ship crashing and these people dying, and there's like supposedly this hidden treasure, and it's just insane. Like to the point that like there are scenes where like they're doing this like Indiana Jones stuff while they're like fighting with ghosts while there's like a sex comedy happening. And it's not like, oh, we're gonna have like this scene where there's like some sex jokes and whatever, and then we're gonna go into the adventure scene and then we'll have the horror scene. It's like, no, it's all happening at once. And so like there's a scene where these people go to a house, just to give you an example of this. It ends up that like a group of people kind of come together. There's like a cop, and then there's these gangsters, and then there's an opera troupe who comes to the town to perform, and they all like people from all these different factions kind of come together to form this little squad who's trying to defeat this evil ghost king, right? And so and it's like half men, half women, and there's all this horny stuff going on between them, and it's very silly. So there's a scene where they go to this house because they think that the ghost is going to be there or is trying to kill the people who live there or something like that, right? And there's all these dead bodies, and some of them are kids. Like it's like kind of gruesome. Like this whole family's been killed, right? I mean, it's not very graphic. It's not disturbing like that. You just kind of like see hints of who's been killed, right? Because it's definitely more of a comedy. It's not like a really freak out horror movie, right? Okay. So they go to this house and there's a ghost there, and they get scared and they lie down pretending to be dead so that the ghost won't see them. And while they're lying down, these rats start crawling on them. But it's two people, a man and a woman. They don't know the rats are there, so they think it's the other person, like, feeling them up. So there's all this, like, innuendo, and, like, stop feeling me, and, like, are you rubbing yourself against me, and all this stuff. But while there's these dead bodies everywhere, and there's these, like, creepy zombie ghost people, like, threatening to murder everyone. And that's kind of, like, that scene is very emblematic of, like, what the movie's about. There's another section of the movie where, for reasons that I don't think are ever quite explained, everyone in this theater troupe has diarrhea. So And it's during a performance, so they're like fighting for the toilet, and like they have to switch roles like mid-performance. It's almost like a Marx Brothers movie or like a screwball comedy. It has that level of ridiculousness and zaniness and like manic energy, but with like I almost want to say like Adam Sandler jokes, because it's like sex jokes and diarrhea jokes. Like it's so stupid, but it's so funny. And I couldn't stop. I really couldn't stop laughing while I was watching this movie. And I like took some screenshots and texted them to some friends. And I was like, "You have to see this movie. It's so insane." I think that gives you a pretty good overview of what this film is. You know, it's not very complicated. It's got some fun sword fighting in it. Corey Yuen, you know, like I said, was part of that Beijing opera troupe, so he's actually physically very capable. And he has a couple fight scenes that are really fun. And the ending, I don't want to spoil a lot here, but there's like a fight scene at the end that takes place in the, like on the stage where the opera troupe is performing. It actually gets like really complicated with these like Rube Goldberg devices they're rigging up with all like the rigging and the lights and the wires and the cables from like the theatrical performance aspect of what they're doing. So the movie is Mortuary Blues. It came out in 1990. As far as I can tell, it's a lesser known kind of obscure film, but it's really, really fun. And it has that, you know, when I did my interview with Arna Venema, he talked about how one of the things he really loves about classic Hong Kong movies is they are totally unpredictable. And you don't get that in a lot of movie cultures, because movies have become so kind of set in like what they deliver and how they work that you kind of know what's going to happen, and you're more just along for the ride, right? Whereas in these classic movies, these Hong Kong movies from like 70s, 80s, and 90s, you really have no idea what's going to happen, and that's what makes them so interesting. And this movie is like, it's even like a step beyond that, where it's like, it's really, you have no idea what is going to happen in this movie, because the tone is so insane and the hijinks are so insane that it could really go in any direction at any moment. And it's this kind of like anarchic sense of insanity that's like really, really fun. So like I said, Mortuary Blues, directed by Jeffrey Lau, Corey Yuen, and a bunch of others are in it. It came out in 1990. My name is Will. This is Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. If you know other movies like this, like more obscure films, like 80s and 90s movies especially, that you think I should check out, let me know. It's especially helpful if you know where to find them. The friend who recommended this movie actually had a copy of it, so he's able to pass it on to me, so that's very, very helpful. But yeah, thanks for watching. Heavily recommended film, totally insane. I think you'll really enjoy it if you like crazy comedy and those kind of like classic what the fuck Hong Kong movies. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.